Hey intuitive Pisces, pay attention to what has been stirring inside you as August 28th, 2026 comes into focus, because this day may feel less like an outside event and more like an inner realization asking you to understand where your life is heading. You may notice stronger emotions, a sudden desire to change direction, a powerful instinct about someone or something, or the feeling that remaining in the same situation is becoming harder than taking the next step. But before turning that feeling into action, give yourself enough space to ask whether you truly want something different or simply want something to happen. Your sensitivity can be powerful when it has direction, but movement becomes more meaningful when it comes from intention rather than reaction. Think of a wave moving toward the shore. It carries tremendous energy, but it still follows a natural rhythm. You do not have to force every movement. August 28th can therefore become a symbolic moment of recognition and direction. Notice the thought that keeps returning, the decision you have postponed, or the emotional pattern you are no longer willing to repeat. The question is not whether you are sensitive enough to recognize change, Pisces, but whether you are clear enough to know which change truly deserves your energy. Astrology and tarot cannot decide your life for you. They can simply offer symbols that help you recognize patterns and ask better questions. If something in this message does not fit your experience, you do not have to force it. But if a particular idea makes you think, that is exactly what I have been feeling, stay with that recognition and allow it to become clearer before you move. As we move through August 28th, we will consider love, money, health, family, and career. But first, there is something more personal to examine: how you protect your energy. Pisces, compassion can be one of your greatest strengths. You may naturally sense what others are feeling, offer support, and understand emotions that other people struggle to express. Yet being deeply compassionate can quietly become a habit of carrying feelings that do not actually belong to you. You may step forward to comfort people, solve emotional problems, listen to everyone, or keep situations peaceful until you realize that you have absorbed responsibilities that were never truly yours. There is a difference between caring for someone and carrying everything they feel. You can care deeply without fixing every situation, and you can support someone without carrying their entire emotional world. Think of your inner world as water. It can reflect everything around it, but if too much enters at once, it becomes difficult to see your own reflection clearly. You may eventually notice emotional exhaustion, scattered thoughts, impatience, or a strange distance from dreams that once made you feel alive. This is why August 28th is less about proving that you can handle more and more about deciding what is actually worthy of your emotional energy. Do not become so available to every problem around you that you lose contact with your own direction. Your dreams deserve attention too. If vivid dreams, old memories, unusual images, or unexplained emotions have been appearing while you sleep, you do not need to treat every detail literally. Simply notice the feeling that remains when you wake. Did you feel peaceful, excited, unsettled, relieved, frustrated, or hopeful? What part of your waking life carries that same emotional charge? Sometimes a dream simply reveals something your conscious mind has been moving too quickly to notice. If your surroundings have felt chaotic lately, resist the urge to answer every disturbance with more emotional movement. You do not have to keep yourself distracted simply because stillness feels uncomfortable. Return to whatever helps you settle. Time in nature, quiet music, reading, gentle movement, creative activities, or enough solitude to hear your own thoughts again. Rest does not take your sensitivity away. Sometimes it helps you understand what your intuition has been trying to tell you. Pisces, your ability to imagine, adapt, and feel your way through complicated situations is powerful. But you may sometimes become inspired by a new possibility and lose connection with something you previously wanted to complete. There may be a creative project, personal goal, responsibility, or professional direction that remains unfinished because the initial inspiration faded, the circumstances became more complicated, or another idea captured your attention. But that does not automatically mean you need to finish everything you have ever started. The deeper question is whether something still matters to you, whether it can realistically move forward, or whether you are holding on to it because letting go feels like failure. Sometimes courage means returning to the work and completing the step you have avoided. Other times, it means recognizing that your energy belongs somewhere else. Do not keep holding on to something simply because you once believed it would work. Look at what remains unfinished and consciously decide whether the next move is completion, adjustment, or release. The same awareness applies to your well-being. There may be a routine, appointment, or personal concern you have postponed because something else always seemed more urgent. Your well-being cannot remain at the bottom of the list. Give yourself the same consideration you give the people you care about, and listen when your body asks for attention. When we move into love and relationships, the energy becomes more intimate. Pisces, connection is not only about deep emotion or feeling understood without words. It also asks whether you can communicate clearly enough for another person to understand your emotional reality. If you are in a relationship, consider whether you have been communicating openly or expecting your partner to sense what you need without you saying it. Sometimes love grows through patience, genuine listening, and the willingness to admit that you do not have every answer. A thoughtful conversation can soften tension, and an honest admission can create more closeness than pretending everything is fine. You do not have to avoid every disagreement simply because you dislike emotional tension. And you do not have to hide vulnerability because you fear being misunderstood. Let the other person meet the real you, not only the version that understands everyone else while keeping your own feelings hidden. If you are single, there may be room for an unexpected romantic development or for someone to reveal an interest you did not anticipate. If that happens, resist the urge to decide the entire meaning of the connection immediately. You may feel a powerful emotional spark, but chemistry alone cannot tell you whether two people can meet with respect, curiosity, and emotional honesty. Allow the connection to reveal itself. Notice whether you feel safe being yourself rather than feeling pressured to become what someone else expects. A meaningful relationship does not require you to chase, perform, or prove your worth. It gives both people room to discover whether attraction is supported by genuine understanding. Now we move toward money, where the deeper question for Pisces is not simply how much you can gain, but what truly deserves your time, attention, and resources. You may have invested considerable effort into a creative project, career goal, personal plan, or financial decision. August 28th can become a useful point for examining whether your current strategy truly reflects what you want to build. Your intuition can be powerful, but intuition becomes far more useful when it is combined with clear thinking and practical action. Instead of following every possibility that catches your attention, notice what you have already been developing. An opportunity may deserve your attention, but you do not have to label every attractive possibility a breakthrough. Before committing your energy, ask whether it genuinely supports the direction you want your life to take and whether it gives your effort somewhere meaningful to grow. Now let us move into the symbolic side of this reading. The first card appearing for you is the Ace of Pentacles. For Pisces, this card is less about being promised money and more about the moment when an idea, possibility, or opening becomes tangible enough to require a real decision. It can represent a new project, professional opportunity, practical beginning, or a chance to turn something you have been imagining into something you can actually build. The important question is not simply whether it inspires you, but whether you are prepared to give it patience, structure, consistency, and attention. The Ace of Pentacles asks you to notice what is beginning to take shape without overlooking the work needed to support it. A promising beginning becomes valuable through what you choose to do after the initial excitement settles. The next card is the Seven of Wands, and its energy asks you to look closely at what you are actually willing to protect. You may encounter pressure, competing demands, strong opinions, or people who seem determined to pull your attention away from what you have chosen to build. For Pisces, the deeper challenge may not simply be defending yourself. It may be recognizing when something genuinely deserves your energy and when responding to every emotional demand only drains the strength needed for something more important. This card does not ask you to retreat from resistance. It asks you to become more selective about where your strength belongs. Not every criticism requires an answer. Not every disagreement needs to become a battle, and not every person's emotions need to become your responsibility. You can remain compassionate without allowing everyone else's expectations to redirect your life. Then the energy shifts with the star, bringing a softer atmosphere of hope, healing, renewal, and restored confidence. If you have been moving through emotional exhaustion, disappointment, or uncertainty, this card reminds you that strength does not have to remain tense forever. There is another kind of courage that appears when you allow yourself to believe in something again after life has given you reasons to become guarded. The star speaks of gradually reconnecting with possibility and remembering that your life does not have to be defined only by difficult experiences. You may not have every answer yet, but hope can still have a place in the way you move forward. Then comes the Fool, carrying a particularly meaningful message for Pisces. Its invitation is not simply to follow every feeling because you are restless. It is about becoming willing to begin again when the old path no longer reflects the person you are becoming. The Fool can speak to a new personal direction, professional venture, creative idea, or experience that asks you to step beyond what has become familiar. You may not be able to see every consequence before you begin, and uncertainty alone does not mean that the choice is wrong. For you, Pisces, the deeper lesson is that intuition and impulsiveness are not the same thing. You do not need a perfect map before taking the first step, but you can still know why you are taking it. Let intuition stand beside awareness, and let excitement be guided by clarity rather than controlled by emotion. Finally, when the reading turns toward the heart, the Two of Cups appears. This card speaks of mutual recognition, emotional balance, respect, and the kind of connection where two people can meet without either person needing to control the entire direction of the relationship. Its message can apply to romance, friendship, or even an important professional bond because the deeper theme is reciprocity. Both people are seen, both have a voice, and both contribute to what is being created between them. If you are already in a relationship, the Two of Cups can symbolize a period when emotional understanding becomes easier because both people are willing to listen instead of simply defending their own position. If you are seeking love, you may find yourself more drawn towards someone whose presence feels balanced rather than someone who creates only an overwhelming first reaction. The most meaningful connection may be one where you can remain fully yourself without needing to constantly prove your value. Pisces, August 28th can also be a useful moment to notice what your body and emotions have been carrying. If you have moved through a demanding period, you may recognize how much those experiences have changed your relationship with ordinary moments. A quiet morning, a peaceful conversation, creative time, or simply feeling more like yourself can seem far more valuable after a stressful period. You do not have to wait for every part of life to become perfect before appreciating what is already here. Your instinct may be to retreat into your thoughts when things become overwhelming, but your body has its own language, and it deserves to be heard. Pay attention to your mood, energy, sleep, and emotional state, particularly when several smaller pressures have been accumulating quietly. Your resilience is real, Pisces, but resilience should not mean ignoring your limits. Let strength include recovery. Let awareness include listening. And let caring for yourself become part of the direction you are choosing. In family life, the Two of Cups symbolizes understanding, emotional support, and greater respect. You may notice certain family interactions becoming warmer, especially where distance or misunderstanding has created tension. The goal does not have to be forcing everyone to agree. Healing can begin when people become willing to hear one another without immediately defending their own position. The Ace of Pentacles can add a practical layer through shared responsibilities, a financial decision, a change in the home, or something constructive that gives people a reason to build together. The star reminds you that old emotional distance can soften when compassion is allowed to enter the space where resentment once lived. The Seven of Wands, however, reminds you that supporting the people you love does not require you to absorb every problem that reaches you. You can protect the peace of those you care about without becoming the person who carries every emotional burden for them. Pisces, your energy around August 28, 2026 may feel more focused, and you may become increasingly aware of where your attention is going and what genuinely deserves it. Your natural sensitivity remains powerful, but maturity asks a different question. Can you remain compassionate without constantly absorbing everything happening around you? Once you decide something matters, you can put enormous emotional energy behind it. But sometimes stepping back is part of moving wisely. Rest does not erase progress, and pausing does not mean you have lost your intuition. Your strength becomes more powerful when it is directed rather than scattered. And when it comes to love, remember the message of the Two of Cups. Connection becomes stronger when both people are allowed to be seen, heard, and respected. With money and career, the Ace of Pentacles reminds you to recognize practical opportunities while understanding the work required to build them. The Seven of Wands tells you to protect what matters without turning every challenge into a battle. The Star reminds you that hope and renewal are still possible. And the Fool reminds you that beginning again can be courageous when you understand why you are moving forward. So the central message for you on August 28th, 2026 is simple. Pause, recognize, choose, then move with intention. You do not have to respond to every emotion immediately. You do not have to carry everyone else's expectations. And you do not have to know every detail of the future before taking the next meaningful step. Your strength is not measured by how much you can absorb or by how much you can carry without help. There is another kind of courage available to you now. The courage to pause, listen, choose carefully, and then move with your whole heart. Once you know why you are moving, your next step does not need to be the fastest one.